It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Yes, it is, and it is a Wednesday morning. Thank you very much for joining us on this beautiful morning. And we engage in some very, very relevant topics of conversation right now. We're talking about anxiety, which is a big problem, and it's a problem that's affecting more and more youngsters today because of things like social media. Now, this morning, family therapist and registered social worker Kim Abrams joins us to talk about this, specifically about the anxiety caused by social media and how parents can help their child to deal with it. We were having a very candid conversation about that during the break, and we'll get to the crux of that. But first, let's talk, Kim, about what exactly social media anxiety is and how prevalent it is.
Okay, so it's a pretty new term for us as healthcare experts. What it is, it's a description to describe people who are presenting with really intense feelings of anxiety that seems to be primarily related to their use of social media.
Yeah.
So we know that social media has some lovely aspects to it in terms of keeping us connected and staying up to date with what's going on in the world, but there's also a really dark side to it in that children and teenagers in particular are being exposed to a world that is so fake and set up, and they are comparing themselves and their lives against what they're seeing online.
Yeah.
So this increases pressures to conform, increases pressures to look and be a certain way. And then has a ripple effect of increasing anxiety. And research is now saying that we're seeing a rise in anxiety and depression in children and teenagers, very much in line with when the smartphone was introduced. So we know that there is a link between our mental health and our use of social media.
Yeah, and just to be very clear that when we are addressing this topic, we are talking about, as you said, our children and teenagers who are most at risk of being influenced, if you will, by social media and what's going on out there, and the way that they compare themselves, how they look at themselves in the mirror and in their selfies, and how when those two images don't necessarily match up, it causes a real anxiety, sometimes to quite fatal consequences. But what are some of the signs and symptoms that parents could look out for that could indicate to them that their child might be going through some kind of social media linked anxiety?
So I think it's really important as parents that you remember to take responsibility for your child's social media usage. So they will do what it is they're allowed to do and how much leeway you give them. So signs and symptoms we look at are very much in line with anxiety, but when we're trying to link it with social media, we're looking at, is your child spending a lot more time wanting to withdraw themselves and isolate themselves, to spend time on devices? Are they having really disturbed sleep patterns? Are they struggling to go to sleep and they need their phone with them or their tablet or whatever it is with them at night? Or are they also withdrawing from activities that they really used to enjoy and wanting to stay connected in the fake world, really, and not wanting to spend time being disconnected and outside with their friends? So these are some of the signs and symptoms we not only see in children and teenagers, but also in adults. It's an ongoing need to want to have a device with you and to stay connected.
Yeah, and just to kind of make the picture even more clearer to parents out there and how serious this is, how detrimental can the anxiety caused by social media be to a child's well-being?
Well, we know with children and teenagers, their brains are in constant development, so they're always taking mental pictures of everything that they see. So the darker side of this is that we're seeing an increase in cyberbullying with children. You know, children are then questioning their self-worth and whether they even want to be around anymore because they cannot switch off. We're living in a digital age and it's not going anywhere. So as before, if a child was being bullied at school and they came home, they could perhaps switch off for a couple of hours, but now they are connected, they talk to their friends through social media. It's no more texting and letter writing. So we're also seeing an increase in girls presenting with anxiety disorders and eating disorders because unfortunately there are sites out there that's promoting, you know, anorexia and bulimia, and children are being exposed to this. So whilst it does have a nice side in terms of keeping us connected, there's also, it doesn't have an end. You know, the internet doesn't end. It can go on and on and deeper into issues that, you know, will only become worse if we don't get a grip on it.
Absolutely, and that's what we're trying to do through this conversation. Let us know what you think. Link up with us on social media, if you will. Expresso Morning Show, SABC3 is where we are on Facebook. And of course, tweet us using hashtag Expresso Show. How are you going about helping your child deal with the potential anxieties that come with modern day technology and social media? We'd love to hear from you, and we'll have a chat to Kim a little bit later on.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. This is your Feel Good Breakfast Show. It's a Wednesday morning, and we are so grateful to be in your company. In fact, it is so good to be with you. Now, early on in the show, family therapist and registered social worker Kim Abrams joined us on the couch, or in fact, in our little lounge here, to talk about anxiety caused by social media and how it affects a child's well-being. And we're continuing this conversation right now by firstly talking about, let's say, what can parents do to help their children deal with the pressures that are caused by living in this digital age. And we're not just talking about social media. I mean, you go around anyway. You take a drive down the highway to work or to school, and there's boards that flash this and flash that. We're constantly being bombarded. We are living in a digital age.
Yeah, and it's not going anywhere, so it is here to stay. So we need to, as parents, find ways to navigate it and incorporate it into our daily lives in a healthy way. So some of the things parents can do is to try to have ongoing conversations with your teenager about what they think about social media. Try to also normalize things for them. Explain to them that what they are seeing online is not a true representation of what is happening in real life. Go through social media accounts with them of people that they follow and people that they admire, so you can get a glimpse into your child's online world. Because let's face it, our teens want to stay connected as part of their development, and the best way to stay connected nowadays is through having online usage.
I've got a question. Spanner in the works. How do you explain that to your young teenage girl or teenage boy when Kylie Jenner, and this is with nothing bad towards her at all, is a very real billionaire in the world at the young age that she is, and she's doing that through her makeup company and the products that she's that she's selling? How then do you have a conversation with them about what's real and what's not, when that's exactly how she made her fame, that's exactly how she makes her money, that's exactly how you see her being portrayed week in, week out on their reality TV show? Yeah,
that's a really good question. The thing I would say is to explain to your child and try to get them to reflect at what cost has that come to her. Yes, she's made money, yes, she's famous, but at what cost? At what cost to her own child in the long term? Because once something is online, and any type of picture, it's not going anywhere. You can delete it, but somebody else has screenshotted it somewhere, I can assure you. So it's about thinking about at what cost has all of this come to her, at what cost has all the fame and fortune come to her. Is there anything that perhaps she could do differently? Or is there anything your teenager would want to do differently if they were in the same position? Because let's face it, there's a certain level of exposure and boundaries that we need to put in place when it comes to sharing things online.
And we were also talking earlier on off camera about the absorption of the good stuff, right? So you put a good picture on social media, and then it happens to be that one picture that everyone likes, and so all the endorphins flow in because everyone is telling you, oh, you're so great, oh, you look beautiful, the lighting's amazing, da-da-da-da. But now you've opened up that door to receive opinion from the outside world to influence how you feel. So by the time the bad stuff comes, which it inevitably always does, that stuff hits you really, really hard. So then let's talk about the practical steps that parents can apply to help them and their children manage this world that we're in.
Okay, so the first thing I would say to a parent is increase your own knowledge about social media. The best people to teach you are really your teenagers. They will tell you what the latest hashtags are, what the latest new hit accounts
what
are.
What a hashtag is.
What a hashtag is, I mean, it's still something I'm even trying to figure out.
No, don't say that.
So, it's important that you use your child in that way to educate you, because it opens up a conversation.
Absolutely.
So, by acknowledging with your child as well that you recognize their digital world is important to them, they will ultimately feel valued and perhaps more likely to come to you if they encounter problems. Another practical strategy parents can do is to encourage offline activities. But the biggest thing is a digital detox. I would encourage all families to find some time throughout the day or the week or the weekend where everybody is unplugged, everybody is disconnected, and that goes for every single person in the household. So it's not just for one person and not the other. The rule is the same for everyone. And spend time talking, spend time doing things together. We're not doing that enough. We're not connecting in a real way anymore.
Final question. In your line of work, in your experience, would there or could there be any negative effects to completely removing social media from your young child or your teenager's life?
I think it's a bit of a catch-22, but to take it away completely, I think would be unrealistic. I think this is the era that we're living in, and we need to learn to to navigate our lives against things that are coming towards us. So we're no longer really in control as to what's coming towards us, but we are in control as to how much we incorporate it into our lives. I think social media can have a really amazing effect. It can really increase into our sense of self and give us new ideas and new goals to achieve. But at the end of the day, it's just important to know what is real and what isn't.
I think I heard a tiny little voice there saying, no, there would be no negative effects. Hey, but that's just my opinion. We're just throwing it in there for you to have a discussion about. Maybe that's a way of starting the conversation. Kim, thank you very much. Keep engaging with us on social media with this topic and let us know your thoughts.